All right, man, welcome in. Eagles Talk Monday night right here on A2D Radio. Off-season edition. Les Bo and PY. I am Rob Brinkman in the house. Let's get into it. The road to a repeat continues right here tonight.
You love the Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! You love the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! Hell yeah! Philadelphia!
All right, everybody, welcome in. This is Eagles Talk exclusively on A2D Radio. Each and every week we are broadcasting live from the Real Talk studios. If you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on. Free agency pending. Don't miss a move. The Eagles do all off season. Keep it locked right here on A2D Radio. Obviously, we're broadcasting from the Real Talk studios. Find us live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter X, and Instagram, and where you get all your major podcasts. Each and every week, we are brought to you by our good friends at Baggio's Breads, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pie, sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. Mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. So, guys, road to the repeat. We got some off-season talk. The combine's in the books. We get some real early draft talks in the mix. But, I mean, the bell of the ball when it comes to not only the Eagles offseason, but the NFL offseason is probably a top 5 player is going to be moving teams. He is not interested in playing in Cleveland anymore. He has slammed the door on all contract negotiations, extension talks. And honestly, who can blame him? He's busted his butt for them with little return. They can be in last place with Myles Garrett. They can certainly be in last place without him, a mantra I always say right here all the time here on ATD Radio. So Myles Garrett's moving. So that brings us to our poll question, boys. Trading for Myles Garrett, off-season priority 1 for this football team. PY, I'll let you go first.
So I would love Myles Garrett. I've loved watching his game. Like, he's explosive. He's going to attack the quarterback. He's going to get your pressures. He's going to get double-digit sacks without any question. Do I think he should be the number 1 priority? No. Like, that is still Zach Baun. And I understand Zach Baun is 29. But Zach Baun last season was the heart and soul of that defense. Like, for the first time in a long time, we had competent linebacker play. Obviously, you know, when they were in the Super Bowl, you had solid linebackers. Like, Kaiser White was decent, and TJ Edwards had a phenomenal year. He wasn't anywhere close to what Zach Baun was. Zach Baun was an all-pro at the linebacker position. Like, probably one of the best linebacker the Eagles have had since Trotter. You can make a look at that. Like, he was phenomenal. Like, he led the defense. He controlled what needed to be taken care of. And he was just explosive all over the field. He's a great run stopper. He was able to intercept the ball. You know, he's good in pass catching opportunities. Like, he was your leader when it comes to offense or when it comes to the defense. Like, as much as I would love Myles Garrett, I'm not going to alienate my chances of getting Zach Baun just for Myles Garrett. Like, I think as of right now, your number 1 priority is Zach Baun. You have to go out and re-sign him. And if you're able to get Myles Garrett after that, that's fantastic. But where we stand right now, like, I need Zach Baun back on this team. I don't care that he's 29. He makes you a better football team. He's a Fangio disciple, and he wants to come back. Like, you can just tell he wants to come back and he wants to play for this team again.
Well, there's going to be no lack of motivation for generating interest in coming to the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Everyone's going to want to come here. It's just going to be a matter of who Howie picks that fits in the cap room. Less
26
PY. PY.
Well, I agree with PY, but I will. I have a few other things that I can buttress that with. First of all, Zach Baun just turned 28 the end of December, so he's not 29. But Yeah, you got to get Zach Baun back. With Vic Fangio in charge of the defense, I think linebacker is much, much more important to the Eagles than it used to be. And I think Howie Rosman sort of obliquely made that point last week in Indianapolis when he talked about changing priorities and things like that, that you don't just stick with the same positional values and so forth for 30 years.
Things
the game
change.
changes. And one of the things that changes is Fangio wants really good linebackers.
Yes.
And again, as I always mention when we talk about this, Nakobe Dean might not be back till like late next season. It would be insanity to not re-sign Zach Baun. And Jeff McClain has reported, and others have reported now that is their top priority, is to re-sign Zach Baun. So now that for some weird reason, if they aren't able to do that, then you have to look elsewhere. But first you have to do that. But Myles Garrett, yes. I would love to see Myles Garrett, much like you, Pete. And there are some people dismissing that out of hand, which I don't think they should do, because it would entail a huge investment of money, and he is not a young player, and it isn't their MO so much to use draft capital this way. But I still say, the Super Bowl notwithstanding, there's a huge need at edge rusher.
Yes.
And whoever you draft probably isn't going to come in right off the bat and, be a double-digit sack person and all that stuff. I would
is.
them seriously address the possibility of Myles Garrett. I don't know what it would take. I mean, the number 32 pick in the first round isn't anything that's going to really set Cleveland's heart ablaze. You're going to have to do that and a lot more, I guess. But your first priority is Zach Baun, and then you look very seriously at this Myles Garrett, which I don't think anything's going to happen with Myles Garrett anytime soon, by the way. You're right, Rob. He has said he won't play there, but Cleveland adamantly says they won't trade him, and he is under contract. So, if push comes to shove next fall, he doesn't make any money and sits at home. And you're right, they can win with him, and they can lose with him or lose without him, but that cuts both ways. They could just say, okay, you want to sit at home, we can't afford to trade you. We're not getting anywhere near your value in from other teams. So, see you, wait, your contract will be up one of these days. So I don't know how. My point is, I probably usually when a guy says he won't play somewhere, he does get traded at some point, but that point isn't like tomorrow. So, I think that point could be July, could be August, So yeah, your off-season priorities start with signing people, and there's not going to be a Myles Garrett trade early in the offseason, I don't think.
No.
And so you get the Zach Baun thing settled. Maybe you figure out, it'd be nice if you could get Becton back or something like that. It's not really vital, but it would be nice. It'd be a good thing. And then look at, what's out there on the market, what you're hearing. I don't know if what the Browns are saying publicly is what's being said privately. I know Howie has a very good relationship with Andrew Berry, who used to work here. But, if they're not ready to make a deal on that, you can't hamstring yourself, setting aside a whole bunch of money in case Myles Garrett comes available. That I would just go on ahead with my off-season plan without.
That's how the Browns ended up in this position.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I would love to see Myles Garrett. Definitely not off-season priority number one, and probably not something that's really going to happen if we're being honest. Although I would, like Pete, I would love to see it happen.
I mean, edge rush is the number one.
It is
need for this team.
Yes.
You just said it, Les.
Yes.
You're losing Josh Sweat.
Yes.
I'm not paying Josh Sweat.
Right.
I'm not paying him. You're probably going to lose Milton Williams. Someone's going to give him a lot of money. He's a good player.
Yeah.
So now you're down to you're counting them. At least I am as out. So then you have Becton, who I think that this fan base is undervaluing the value that he had to this team last year. He was very, very good, and I'm not sold that Tyler Steen is just going to step in next year and be what Myles Becton was for this run game. I'm just not. So I would be looking to bring him back.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have Baun, but when a player of this magnitude, Myles Garrett, is on the market to be had, you have to go. You are one of the youngest teams in the league. You can add a veteran. I am full court press on for Myles Garrett until he gets traded to another team, which hopefully it's not Washington.
Yeah.
They've been busy already, but hopefully it's not Washington. So already I want to go get him because I don't want to see him in Washington. I don't want to have to play him twice a year. Forget that. So let's bring him in our house. Howie is like the salary cap. It's not real. It is real, but it's not.
Yeah.
Howie does all these magic tricks every offseason, restructures guys, pushes money, the whole thing to where they can afford whatever they want. Colin Cowherd on his show, take him for what he's worth. Used to be a big fan of him. I'm not really anymore. But I think it was his show. The Eagles have like 8 players that make above like $50 million a year in total contract when they signed him. The Bengals have 3, and they're always singing the blues about how they can't afford anyone. Well, how does the Eagles have 8 and the Bengals have 3? So, like, there's a way to do this to get him here. Now, the problem with getting him here is that you have the 32nd pick in the draft. It's going to take, multiple day 1, day 2 picks, maybe some players to get him here. So if you do get Myles Garrett, we can just take the draft off this go around, which I'm fine with because absolutely no one you're going to pick at number 32 on the defensive line, whether it's tackle or edge, is going to give you what Myles Garrett is going to give to you. Now, I have his contract up right here. Obviously, if he gets traded, I assume he's going to want some type of restructured deal. So you'll have to deal with that. But 2025 coming up, he's under contract, as Les said. 2026, he is also under contract. 2027, he's also under contract. And if I'm misinterpreting Sports Track, salary cap and contracts, it might as well be Chinese to me. I don't understand it. But it looks like you have him through the 2027 season. That's 3 years by my math. And look at his physique. Look at the way he works. Like, did you watch Myles Garrett last year and say, wow, the Browns are really bad because Myles Garrett really fell off a cliff? Like, no. Like, we deal with Josh Sweat during the collapse and at times this season where he goes weeks and weeks without even getting a QB pressure. Myles Garrett gets a QB pressure every drive. Defensive possession, he's on the field. He's in there being disruptive. And you put him next to a guy like Jalen Carter on the defensive line. And then if you just look at that, I know I'm playing Xbox right here a little bit, but you're going to have a team with Jalen Hurts. You're going to have a team with Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae. Even if Becton's not back and it is Steen or it's someone we don't even know about yet, still a pretty good offensive line. And then you have Jalen Carter, a defense anchored by a Jalen Carter, a Myles Garrett, a Cooper DeJean, and a Quinion Mitchell. That's the most top-tier talent on any roster I've ever heard of in my life watching NFL football. It's like these guys don't become available that are this good that often. And if you're in a position, a win-now position, a chance to do something special, going back to back like the Eagles are, I'm all in. This is going to be unpopular, but if it costs me Zach Baun, so be it. I mean, I'll play devil's advocate for a second with Zach Baun. I mean, this guy was a journeyman his whole career until he came here. So if we pay him, is he going to lose his edge? Is he going to go back to the New Orleans Saints, Zach Baun, that didn't really do much as a day 2 pick? Or is this like the late bloomer guy that's just going to be an all-pro for the next 3-4 years, whatever Howie and the front office decides him for? I don't know. I've seen it go both ways plenty of times. And honestly, I've seen it go the opposite way of what PY was talking about more often than not. So when I can get a proven top 10 player in the NFL, I'm doing it. And draft picks, players, you call up that Andrew Berry guy that is a Howie disciple, just get it done. I can take a draft off if I'm getting Myles Garrett. So, I'm absolutely 100% all in on accumulating all the top-tier talent that I can. And then they can fill in with hungry guys in the offseason. There's going to be free agents. There's going to be they're going to have some draft picks. You know, Jason Kelce, Tom Brady, they weren't Travis Kelce. The list goes on and on. The NFL draft is pretty much a crapshoot. Guys become all pros from every single round, every single pick in this position. It's not that it shouldn't be that hard to find guys that can fill in and do roles if you do go the route of Myles Garrett. So I'm 100% all in on Myles Garrett. We got the chat humming. Let us know what you think on Facebook and YouTube. Let's blow through them. A few of them here. We have some other stuff to get to as well tonight. Pete Evans in the house. Maybe a quiet free agent for Howie. As far as signing, but trades, that's a different story. They have the 20. I saw, now obviously, if you haven't been following, the Eagles are going to release Darius Slay after June 1st, saving them about just over $4 million in cap space. So maybe that's a sign of things to come, and we'll talk about Darius Slay and that decision a little more. John Malmos, loyal listener, disagree. Number one priority, 30 years old, and he will want a new, very large contract, and we have others to pay. Now, I try to avoid, if I were a GM, I would try and avoid paying guys early. I understand it works out. This is kind of like Howie's MO, pay guys early before the rush. It worked with Jalen. So, I don't know. I'm not the only guy I'm running to the table to extend as soon as possible is a top tier guy like Jalen Carter. Am I crazy for not,
Well, you get a better price the earlier you go in. I think if you assume that Cam Jurgens is going to be fine, which I would certainly try to get something done with him. What you end up doing is end up being the Cowboys and not being able to afford your players because you waited until they were almost free agents and the money went way up and you've got too many of them. I think
Patriot way
do it is pretty smart.
It's always better to go 1 year too early than 1 year too late.
Yeah. They've been burned once or twice on things like Bradbury. That was a bad deal, but they don't mess up a whole lot. Usually they invest in their own draft picks, which is what you want to do, build culture. It's not like having it all, as we learned in 2011. You just don't throw a bunch of guys out there who are good players
that was a whole team. That was a whole team, and you're referencing the dream team. That was the whole roster was that. You can't do that because they had.
You build your continuity through through resigning your people mostly. Now, John is again. We're giving people extra years here. Garrett just turned 29 at the end of December, just as Zach Baun just turned 28 at the end of December. So let's not make people 30 years old who aren't 30 years old. But he does want a new contract, and it's, I agree with John. It shouldn't be the number one. I understand Rob's point, which he made very, very well, but I just would not make that. Like I said, I don't think it's going to happen right now. It's not like the Browns have said, okay, next week we're trading Myles Garrett. They can string this out until they find what they like, and I don't know. I think it could be one of these things that could last quite a while.
Well, this is Rob Brinkman mantra night, because when a top tier player, this is what I always say, no matter what sport, if a top tier player wants out, the longer you wait, so the longer Cleveland waits to trade him, the less they are going to get, because they're going to get backed into a corner. So, in my opinion, if I were Andrew Berry, I would just get it done draft night. I would just get it done draft. I would just get
but if you trade him, you have to basically admit that the new Browns, it's a new era, blah blah blah, is over with.
But
they misread the Deshaun Watson. They misread the Deshaun Watson situation, and there's no recovering from that. We all knew that, but he's been trying to save face ever since he made that deal, and then they got rid of Baker Mayfield, and Baker has had the success elsewhere. So I don't know if Andrew Berry is ready to basically take the loss on the Baker deal, the Deshaun Watson deal.
It's fascinating. I don't know what the Cleveland. I haven't been reading much of the stuff from there lately. I don't know what they think they have. I mean, obviously, we think they have a disaster on their hands, and they need to just sort of start over. Is that what they think? I don't know. I mean, before last season, you could make a point that they were kind of headed in the right direction, and last season was horrendous, and it's very key, I think, to this whole thing is what they think about where they're headed.
So they stunk this year. Remember, they made the playoffs the year before.
Yeah.
And they got blown out by Houston.
Now, but that's also because they had anyone at quarterback other than Deshaun Watson.
Well, they caught lightning in a bottle with Joe Flacco. I think it was Joe Flacco, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just kind of out of nowhere, and he was slinging the rock, and they made a run. They had a great defense because they had Myles Garrett. So, he's not a quarterback.
Yeah. Joe Flacco, the Jason Peters of quarterback.
Jason Peters just announcing, he officially announced his retirement.
43 years old, yes.
I don't know what he's been doing.
He was on the Seahawks practice squad last season, and he was impressive enough in that leadership role there, helping young guys, that they're going to keep him on as a veteran mentor, staff.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Good for him.
I kind of wouldn't have minded seeing them do that here, but they have Stoutland, so, it's all right. But, yeah.
Brian Daly, Hockey Happy Hour. Disagree with the poll. I would love Myles here, but that being said, priority should be getting some of the pending free agents signed.
Yeah, I agree.
You heard my
yes. Rob, let's get somebody who agrees with you up here. Come on, let's find one.
Let's find one. It doesn't happen often.
You'll be looking a while.
My own. Yeah. David Rosca, he likes all the LA teams. He listens to us. He wants Darius Slay on the Rams.
Do the Rams need a starting corner, really?
They need a lot of things.
Yeah.
I don't know. Their defense is pretty good. That was our hardest game.
Yeah. That was the game that, I think that really, how teams say you need to struggle to get better. I really think that game fixed the Eagles. Those last two games, you knew who was winning with 10 minutes left in the game. There wasn't any whoops. That really taught them a lesson that I wish they'd learned it earlier in the season. But it was a helpful outing, I think.
See, now, here's a comment that I just don't get. And John Malmos, he's a big college football fan. I'm friends with him on Facebook through the A2D radio connection. He likes his draft stuff and his combine stuff, and that's fine. But here's this Howie, make some moves up and get another dog, get Jalen Walker, move up to get this guy. This perplexes me because you hear stuff like this, whether it's from podcasters or your friends on Facebook, group chats, or the Daniel Jeremiahs of the world on the NFL Network and the mainstream media. Why on earth would you trade draft capital for an unproven guy in Jalen Walker when you have maybe the greatest defensive edge rusher in recent memory available to you, a proven commodity for in Cleveland, also being offered up for draft capital? So,
because the capital you're probably going to have to move to get him is probably minimal, as opposed to the capital you're going to have to give up to get Garrett is extreme. Not to mention the fact that you're going to have to give him a brand new contract, which is basically going to make him the highest paid player in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, Jalen Walker, I was just trying to refresh my memory there. Teens, looked to be drafted in the teens, maybe 20-ish, somewhere around there. I don't know. I haven't followed him that much. He's another Georgia guy, as John mentions.
They got the
fine with that. I would like Jalen Walker.
Well, is he big enough to be? I guess he's kind of on the Nolan Smith physique scale. Yeah, I guess. What do you have to do to move up? You know, I do like the idea of moving up more. A lot of people are talking about moving out of the first round, which is the last time they won the Super Bowl. That's what they did. They ended up, with extra second round picks.
Yep.
I don't know. I would just as soon get a better player than a couple second rounders.
Yeah.
But
if a player like Nolan Smith, like someone like that, like someone who you had high on your board, is somehow slipping, like then you go up and get him. Like when they drafted Nolan Smith, if he like got picked the like at the right before the Eagles at 30, right?
Right.
Like they're out of that first round. Like we all know that. Like he was extremely high on their board. You can tell. Because a lot of teams had him going in between 10 to 15. Yeah. And for him to be there at 31, was you can't pass that up.
How does that work again?
Somebody did a study several years ago, quite a few years ago now, that the first few picks of the second round often turn out way better than the players picked toward the end of the first round. I don't know if it's a psychological thing or what, that the teams, put these guys in buckets, and the top of the second round bucket always seems to turn out to be good players. And this is where you got Cooper DeJean last year,
I think it was, I forget what draft analyst was saying it. I want to say it was Daniel Jeremiah, where he just talked about the depth of this draft. And he's just like, anything past the 10th pick is like, it's like you're drafting at 35.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not a particularly spectacular deep draft. It is a good draft for edge rushers, they say.
It's a great defensive tackle draft, I'm hearing as well.
Yeah, which is, you could always use a defensive tackle, but not a huge need.
Not a huge need.
Two things just got said in that exchange that I feel like play right into my argument.
No.
Les, you just said you prefer quality over quantity.
Yeah.
It doesn't get more quality than Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
And if I'm at 32 and a third of the league basically has the 35th pick in the draft, like PY just said, why on earth would I move up for an unproven talent?
Well, because he's going to be a lot cheaper and he's a lot younger, and you're going to have him under control.
It's not my money. It's not my money.
It doesn't matter. The Eagles would see that similarly. Like, as much as they would love to get Myles Garrett, they don't want to. They have other guys they're going to need to pay. Like they don't want someone who they probably have to make the highest paid player in the NFL, and it's possibility that they don't want to give up those draft picks. Going up and going from like 30, 32 to 25, if Jalen Walker is there, that makes a lot of sense. Or other players of that caliber. Also, I'd love to drive a Porsche, but you know what? I'm completely fine with a nice, safe, reliable Honda.
Okay, well, this is pro sports. It's not real. It is real life, but it's not real life, at least from our perspective. We're fans. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm not worried about Cam Jurgens. I'm just not. Like, that's not even in the equation for me in this Myles Garrett. Like, you can't trade for Myles Garrett because you got to give Cam Jurgens a bunch of money.
Cam Jurgens and Jalen Carter and
Nolan
a
Smith,
bunch of other people. Yeah,
Cooper DeJean.
But like Nolan Smith, he's one good year, one bad year.
He was a rookie. He was a rookie.
But I have no idea yet that he is going to garner.
Can you guarantee the second Myles Garrett gets here, he's gonna be the same player? Can you guarantee that? Because it happens all the time. You trade for that 30-year-old star, and then you get him, and then tank's empty.
I don't know what about Myles Garrett and his performance last year suggests that. There's no evidence to support that argument with Myles Garrett. None. He tries his best for a team that goes 4-12 every year. Every week he's out there. Every week he's making plays. That's like the definition of a dog.
He is a dog. He's a fantastic player. But you're asking us, like, what's the most important thing? It's just not Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is a nice luxury to have. He is great if you have the pieces to get him. Fantastic. If you don't get him, you're fine. Like, this isn't like, when was the last time the Eagles went out and they paid buttloads of money and picks for a defensive star? Like, that's just not who they are. They'll do it for offense. They do not do it for defensive players.
True.
But
like, it's different for Zach Baun in the linebacker position, but it can't be different for Myles Garrett.
Because I've seen what Zach Baun is in this defense. Yeah. Like, clearly, he plays a big part in what Fangio does and what Fangio wants. I don't even we can say this. Obviously, we would like Myles Garrett. I don't know if Vic Fangio would want him.
I don't care if Vic Fangio wants him. If I'm Howie Rosman,
well, then you're wrong.
Because he's a stud.
Your opinion needs to be thrown to the trash immediately. Whatever Vic Fangio wants, he gets at this point.
So basically,
the worst defense in the NFL to the number one defense in the NFL. Whatever thumbs up, thumbs down move he's signing off on, he gets that. He gets that cachet right now.
What's the number one defense going to go in the toilet if you have Myles Garrett? I don't get it.
You lose your number one linebacker, your all-pro linebacker? Yeah, maybe.
So I guess I'm in the minority, and everybody's going to hate my opinion because I would rather have Myles Garrett next year than Zach Baun. That's the crux of the argument. Let us know what you think in the comments. Would you rather have Zach Baun next year or Myles Garrett? Let us know. Hopefully people come to my...
I'd rather not have to give someone like a $200 million contract while also giving up like 8 first-round picks instead of...
You're not going to have to.
You are. You're not 100%.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Diana Rossini of ESPN, who is on the money a lot, an insider that I like and respect the job she does, says it's not going to take as much as the Khalil Mack trade, which is like 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick.
He's better. He's putting up better numbers than what Khalil Mack was doing. No offense
to
Diana
Rossini and the sources she has. You don't think they know that?
If they're not willing to part with him now, like what do you think offering less value for him is going to do? You think Andrew Berry's just going to empty his pants, like unhook his belt, drop draws, and just be like, "Well, how you got me? You got me where I need to be." Like, no. Like, it's going to take severe draft capital to make this deal happen. Because as we stand right now, they're not willing to budge. And unless you're giving a blank check, that's the only thing that's going to get them to budge.
Well, yes. I mean, it doesn't matter if he gets traded to the Eagles or the Falcons or the Commanders or the Packers, teams that I've seen that could do it. Like, he's going to have to force his way out. Myles Garrett is going to have to force his way out. Let's point it out at the top of the show. I read his contract. He's under contract. This happens in sports all the time, PY. Good players with clout like Myles Garrett can have more leverage than the average person.
But that's just not him. That's
play.
not him. That's not his personality. That's not who he is.
Doing it, PY. He's already
not
doing it.
Him publicly stating, "I don't want to be here." Guys do it all the time. Like, he is not going to go out of his way to force himself out of Cleveland. He's making his decisions known, and he's going to be fine with doing what he has to do to get out of there. But I don't think he's going to be doing push-ups in the driveway.
Then, PY. He's told the Browns he's not interested in being there. He's not interested in being the highest paid player.
And we'll see if the Browns call his bluff.
Forcing his way out.
That's not. He's calling it's called playing poker. He is trying to get them to call his bluff. And we'll see how good of a poker player Andrew Berry really is. It happens in sports all the time. I'm not signing any extension. I want out. Cool. Yeah. How did that work out for Le'Veon Bell? How did that work out for Hassan Reddick?
If you think that Myles Garrett, I'll bet you $10,000 right now. My entire emergency fund. That entire emergency fund. Whatever you want, you name it. $10,000. Right
that shit better not bounce.
Right now, it won't bounce. I'm not like one of your customers. I'll bet you. And if you can't afford $10,000, if that's too steep for you, you name your price. Myles Garrett will 1,000% not be on the Cleveland Browns in Week 1 next year.
Sure.
1,000% not.
Quite possibly also not here.
That wasn't the bet.
I thought, what bet? Like, I have no guarantee he's going to be there in Week 1, but he also could still be there. They could give into his trade.
There. Can you not read the room at all?
Oh my God!
Not staying in Cleveland. They're going to trade Myles Garrett eventually.
Sure.
They're going to take that Abdul Carter guy to replace him out of Penn State with the second pick in the draft, because I don't think any of these quarterbacks are franchise savers. Maybe Shador is, but
no.
I'm not a Cam Ward guy at all.
Sure, they'll take Cam Ward at 2 or some. It's such a Cleveland move to do this. They're going to draft a quarterback, and they're like, Myles, look what we have. We have stability. We got a quarterback. We believe in this guy. You got to stay.
I mean,
also,
they've had
here's a ridiculous contract for you. I love it here in Cleveland. I've never wanted to go.
I think you're lacking situational awareness.
Money talks.
Garrett. He already has money.
No, it's fine. More money. Fantastic.
Joseph Orkovsky. I don't think we need Myles. Resign Baun.
Yeah.
Keep hitting in the draft. Again, you can do all of those things. Matt Berg on YouTube. Question for you, Les. What would it really take trade-wise to get Garrett? A bunch of draft picks plus a player or players? Just the most realistic expectations of what the Browns would want.
Oh, boy, I don't know. I mean, again, you're talking about the 32 pick in the first round, which is barely a first-round pick. It has the advantage that you get the fifth-year option. But other than that, it's a second-round pick. I would say you got to do that, plus maybe next year's second rounder, plus something else, a player or another draft pick to start with. I mean, I think that might be all I would be willing to give up, but it might not be all Cleveland's looking to get. Trades are all over the board these days. Sometimes teams don't get that much for really good players. Sometimes they get way too much. You're not going to do you're not going to get what Howie got in the Carson Wentz trade, I don't think. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what player, I don't know what player you give them, because you don't really have an edge rusher to give them that you want to part with. I don't know what they would want other than 2 to 3 draft picks, first or second day draft picks. That's where I would look into it at that level. That's what I would say. And if the level gets a lot higher than that, then I'd be out.
There's John Addick thinking you get Max Crosby cheaper than Myles. I mean, if that doesn't work out, you can get him. I mean, Max Crosby is not a free agent, so that would also have to be a trade.
Yeah. Haven't really thought about that one too much.
So, you could bring Reddick back too, but those are. Yeah, well.
Yeah,
they're going to have to do something
burnt.
at edge rusher, PY.
You are. That something will not be that.
You need a starting caliber defensive lineman, probably one in the draft and one in free agency.
Sure.
Max Crosby is only going to be 28 this summer, so that's kind of intriguing. But
are you sure he's not 27, Les?
He's 27 now. He'll be 28.
Okay, all right. Well, we keep fudging these ages.
We do. Yes,
I'm looking it up.
We're Allen Iverson in these ages tonight.
But what is Max Crosby really going to be traded? What do the Raiders want to do? I don't know.
Well, they're kind of stupid, so
they are.
Crosby. Yeah. So is Cleveland.
Point. Yeah.
Crosby is 27 years old.
Yep,
you're like the age czar of the show.
Well, I looked it up too. Yeah.
But sure, Max Crosby. I mean, he's not as much of a difference maker as Myles Garrett. You can't make an argument.
No, he isn't. But he wouldn't cost you what Myles Garrett would cost. I wouldn't think, in contract or in compensation. But I don't know. I don't know.
Do you guys think there will be any setback at corner but without Slay on the field?
Mm-hmm.
I do not.
I think it depends on who's there.
Yeah, the only thing I sort of expected this to happen at some point this offseason, but Slay spends a lot of time with the younger guys, teaching them stuff, handing down wisdom. I'll miss that. Yep. I think they'll miss that. As far as on the field, I think between Rodgers and Ringo, you can probably do pretty well there. Slay had a very good year last year. He really did. Any setback, there might be a small setback. It might not be exactly the same thing, but with Ringo, if it's Ringo who wins the starting job, you assume that he's going to keep getting better, right? So you pay a little bit of a.
He's younger than Quinyon.
If he struggles a little early on, then you just kind of chalk that up. If it's Rodgers, he better be good. He better be. He'd better be what you would have from Slay. And Rodgers has done some. He came in one of the playoff games and played really well. So I don't think it's a disaster on the field, but there's a chance it'll be a little bit of a setback. Yeah.
No, Isaiah Rodgers is a free agent, so they're going to have to figure.
No, he's not going to be a free agent. He's under contract. Yeah, absolutely certain of that. The question is, do you move Cooper DeJean?
No,
I would not move Cooper DeJean. I would keep him.
Cooper is staying exactly where he is.
Some people are saying you could do both. No. You could have him play outside in the base and then nickel in the nickel. They don't play base enough for me to even want to fool with that, frankly.
Look, I mean, Cooper DeJean is going to be here. He's on his rookie contract, and Vic Fangio is also going to be here. He will figure out how to use Cooper DeJean to the best. I have no doubt about that.
But if you could say that Cooper DeJean was going to be Slay, then I would say there's probably no setback. But then you don't have the nickel, which was incredibly important to them last season.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, for that reason, I wouldn't do that.
Well,
you have options.
We just had the combine last, so like, you've talked to like people, personnel people, and whatnot throughout your career? Is it harder to find a nickel corner or an outside corner in the draft?
Well, outside corner is the guy that gets paid more, but I think it's a little bit of a unique situation. I think we saw what DeJean did to this defense. They, in that part of the field, weren't nearly good enough with Maddox. It was such an upgrade from what they had to what he was, and he is so good at that. I don't know that you find another nickel like Cooper DeJean. He might be the best nickel in the league, frankly, given his trajectory so far. So, and I also think because they don't play much base, that it's a pretty important position, especially with all the tight ends and so forth these days. I think traditionally, you're right. Traditionally, you would say outside is much more important. But I'm not sure that that's necessarily true in this situation with this guy.
And like, I hate when because you have a solid nickel guy, one of the best ones in the league.
Right.
Like, let's just keep him there. It's like the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They had that Joe Toomey guy. He was playing a different position every week. So
they didn't have a choice there very, very much. But yeah, he got killed in the Super Bowl, and he's an All-Pro player, but not at that position.
I guess my point is you just have to be careful with moving guys around because you might make two positions on the field worse.
That's absolutely right, Rob. Yes.
Okay, I think we have Bob Poole checking in on Facebook. It's not a stone agree with Rob Brinkman, but it's about as close as we had through 47 minutes. Reggie White was 32 when he went to the Packers.
But he went as a free agent.
He did.
The Eagles didn't get a darn thing for Reggie.
Which is mind-blowing.
Incredible player, incredible career. Reggie wasn't that young when he came to the Eagles because remember he played in the USFL for a couple of years. I'm not saying that Myles Garrett won't be good if you get him, and it wouldn't be worth it to get him. I do think they should pursue him. I just don't think you throw everything else in the world out the window.
Matt Berg, he likes Jahad Campbell out of Alabama.
I like him too.
That would signify a philosophical shift.
It would
at the line.
But again, if you are picking at 32, I don't think it makes much. You're basically picking in the second round. Even though it's nominally a first round pick. The question is, I wasn't at the combine, but I read a lot of stuff about the testing and so forth. And people are always projecting all these great players at 32. Maybe not. Is Jahad Campbell going to make it to 32? That's a good question for, the question that I would have, because I've seen several players on the internet, people think that the Eagles are going to get at 32 that I'm thinking, how would that happen?
You get the bong mask on, the Laramie Tunsil bong mask.
There you go.
You put it on him, and then he falls down.
And I don't even think I think that was a product of that time. I think our culture has moved so far on marijuana now that if that happened this year, I'm not sure anybody would care. Rob, really?
He's a pretty good player. He's a pretty good player. He turned out he had a pretty good career.
Tunsil's been just fine. It was the jokes on all those people that thought that was a big deal,
Oh my God, a 22-year-old drank beer and then smoked a joint in college. No way you can be a productive member of society after that.
Right. Yeah.
I'm standing here, aren't I?
Indeed. Yes.
Just saying. A lot of Zach Baun love.
Yeah.
And John, I think you're off on what it's going to take to get Myles Garrett.
Ooh.
I don't think
I would not do that. I would not do that. But yeah, he's right. You can't do all those things. You wouldn't have. You got to have the thing about giving away the picks is you have to restock at other positions, and if you're giving away your picks, that many picks, you're really hamstrung there. Yeah, I wouldn't do that much. I would not, even for Myles Garrett. Where did PY go? PY deserted.
I don't know. He's back
There
now.
he is. Now he's back.
Yeah, my internet kicked me.
I just figured, that Brickman, he doesn't know what he's talking about ever. I'm out.
No.
Yes, they can. Yes, John, they can have Bryce Huff.
They can 100% have Bryce Huff.
That'll get it done. Yeah.
Dynasty.
No.
I'm not sure if Joey Bosa is a free agent or you would have to trade for me, but I mean, if you want to give me
either of those brothers would push down the flight of stairs by day 3.
I would take his brother.
No.
He's pretty good. But Joey Bosa, I mean, he came out of the draft as like this all-world prospect, and he's hurt a lot, and
he's mentally out of this world.
Yeah.
Bob Brinkman, we can just keep Rodgers at corner and to replace him.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're at such an advantageous position at the cornerback position because you have a guy that's going to shut down half the field.
I
would give Rodgers every chance, but I would also give Ringo every chance. I don't see why you would.
I would give him a 1 year, maybe 2 year deal option.
Well, so Rodgers is under contract for this coming season, but
is he?
Yeah, for not after that, but yeah, he is. So yeah, you've got him. You just, it's whether you want him to start or not. Yeah, I don't think that either, Greg. I agree with
Miller.
you.
I mean, nobody has any idea. Not me, not Les, not PY, not anyone doing a mock draft on NFL Network or wherever. This is why mock drafts.
Because you didn't think Keely Ringo was going to be available in the 4th round, but he was.
Yeah, true.
Like Nolan Smith was available at 32. Like Aaron Rodgers went 31. I mean, Aaron Rodgers went what pick? Like
25.
Just saying. Like, nobody knows. Mr. Wing, Trey Walker, that's the former first overall pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I believe that we're talking about. Don't know if he's a free agent or not. But no. Like, Trey Walker, Joey Bosa, like, Chase Young, like, you want to bring him in, cool, for a fresh face, cool, but they're not Myles Garrett and they're not Zach Baun.
True.
So, and Greg is correct. Keely Ringo is not shy.
No, he isn't.
He is a physical
corner. We're taking penalties, but but yeah, I like him. I do like him.
So, I mean, that hour kind of flew by, fellas.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
So, I am pro Myles Garrett. I will stand on that hill.
We know.
Alone.
And we're just slightly less pro Myles Garrett. We're
but
basically pro, but we're not ready to marry him yet like you are. But
like, I'm not doing the trade that I think John Malmos put up.
Yeah.
Like, that's too much.
Yeah.
I like the car. But am I mortgaging the rest of my funds for the car? I don't think so.
Yeah, right.
See, PY, if I walked into your dealership, you should grab me by the throat and put you at your desk. Because if I'm at the dealership, I'm in buy mode. If I'm talking about Myles
That's
Garrett,
what they all say, Brinkman. That's what they all say.
Yes, but I back up.
You want to know what would make me walk in the exact opposite way? If you walked into the dealership and said, "All right, who's ready to sell me a car?"
Well, that's
Goodbye.
not.
Let me walk the exact opposite direction.
Well, you shouldn't do that because you would. If you did that with me and I said that, you would be missing out on a deal.
Nobody who walks into a dealership and says that is a deal.
I've seen it happen.
But a lot of us don't really. When I go car shop, I don't want to go to 20 different dealerships and talk all that crap and dicker around. I want to find the car that I want and buy it. Yeah. I'm not a maybe this, maybe that. Kind of
maybe
shopper.
Maybe is my least favorite word.
Yeah, I have a pretty good idea of what I want before I go there, and then I buy it.
All right, Les. So closing thoughts from Les Baun on the Birds. Take it however you wish, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, the Slay thing, I'll miss his personality. I know some fans got offended here and there. He would say stupid things from time to time because he was always saying something. But I thought he was he was a big part of the culture here. And I hope they don't lose, like I said, more than just a good player on the field and let him go. There's a slight possibility, I think, that he doesn't get anything great on the free agent market and he comes back at a lower figure. I doubt that'll happen, but he was almost gone a couple years ago and he ended up back here. So maybe it'll happen again. Yeah. Thanks to Big Dom. Yeah. Big Dom. Yeah. Moves in mysterious ways, but yeah, I hate to see him go just as a reporter. Slay was a go-to guy and as you could kind of see that he had a lot of influence in that locker room and, he did a good job here, and he had a heck of a bounce back year, and good luck to him out there.
PY, closing thoughts?
Would like Myles Garrett, but it's a luxury. I hope Slay comes back, and for whatever you do, please don't move Cooper to outside.
Solid thought.
I mean, we all know I'm pro Myles Garrett.
I'm shocked.
I want to see some new faces here.
Well, you're going to see some.
I want to see some new hungry faces here. Now, if it's not Myles Garrett, like just reloading in the draft, like I don't think that's good enough. You're the hunted now. You're not the hunter. So you need to do everything possible this offseason to keep the locker room hungry. And, I talked about the Patriots, how they did it. Like, there's your model. There's your model. Find that Corey Dillon that's sick of losing. Find the Rodney Harrison that's sick of losing. Because you have the core. You don't need core pieces here. You don't. Now, when you're talking about an elite talent like Myles Garrett, you can't ignore that. But if you don't get Myles Garrett, you have the core here. So you need to add fresh, hungry faces to this core. And Les, we talked about it before PY showed up backstage. Like, I think if this was 2017 and the Eagles just won the Super Bowl with Darius Slay as their starting cornerback, they would have given him, they gave out those thank you.
Yeah.
Honorable mention, participation trophy contract. So this move already signifies to me that, they're in a different mindset than they were after the 2017 Super Bowl with Nick Foles. All right. Thank you, Les. Thank you, PY. I am Rob Brinkman. That concludes this edition of Eagles Talk. Thank you to all the fans out there. Keep the comments coming, and we will be back soon enough for some more Eagles off-season talk. Until then, peace out, everybody.
Yes. Bye-bye.